Thank you. I think you would agree that all federal agencies, in fact, all government agencies, have limited resources to perform their duties and responsibilities, and have to make priorities, therefore, about where they will use the limited resources and prioritize based on whatever they perceive to be their mission. Your testimony before the Homeland Security Committee, of which I am a member, on November 8th, I asked you if you agreed with what your predecessor, Secretary Kelly, at the time said, which is that in terms of enforcement priorities, there has to be something else. We're operating more or less at the other end of the spectrum in terms of the range of offenses for which you can detain. And he said, and we're operating more or less at the other end of the spectrum, and that is criminals, multiple convictions. He said, I asked you that, and I quoted that. You said, yes, I agree. We should prioritize criminals, and any others that we are concerned may present a national security concern. I asked you whether the definition of criminals would include people who have violated the law in terms of the violation of the penal code, and I asked you to I urged you to consider those as the definition of a criminal. You said, quote, yes, so the criminality that I would be talking about with respect to enforcement priority is above and beyond the original illegal entry. The Washington Post reported in September of this past year a threefold increase in arrests of non-criminals by your agency. You also, in addition, apparently have changed the way that you report data in your department, and in the past, ICE would provide data broken down by individuals who committed the most serious offenses, and however, this year, your report has lumped all criminal offenses and convictions together, so you have combined serious crimes with traffic offenses. I would urge you to recall and review your testimony before a Senate committee only a couple of months ago, where you, at that point, in seeking confirmation of this United States Senate, indicated that you saw a difference between criminal offenses, felonies, and those who have entered the country illegally. For example, I would ask you to consider the case of UC Berkeley student Luis Mora, who remains in DHS custody, I believe as of today, but was apprehended on January 4th. He came to this country as a child. He is a political science major. He volunteers at his church. He was the winner of the San Diego Union Tribune's Young Latino Champion Award, and today is the first day of instruction at UC Berkeley for their spring semester, and instead of being in class, he is in ICE custody at the Otay Mesa Detention Center. Madam Secretary, I would ask you to consider the previous comments you have made to a committee about your priorities regarding enforcement. Take a look at this case and determine whether he in fact fits what you have indicated before to be your priorities, because if you stand by your previous testimony, he does not.
I stand by my testimony. I'm happy to look into the facts. I can't, not prepared to testify to them today because I'm not aware of them.
I appreciate if you look into the facts. Thank you for that. During a January 4th, 2018 interview on Fox News, ICE agency acting director Holman said he asked the Justice Department to, quote, look into criminal charges for elected officials with sanctuary policies as they are harboring illegal aliens, according to 8 U.S.C. 1324. This comment was specifically about California elected officials after the enactment of the California Values Act. My question is whether DHS is currently working with the Justice Department to bring Section 8 U.S.C. 1324 charges or any criminal charges against state or local officials.
I believe the request was made. The Department of Justice is reviewing what avenues might be available. The context of this is, of course, not only putting my ICE officers at risk, but also finding an efficient and effective way to enforce our immigration laws.
So you are aware of cases in which this code will be used to criminally charge elected officials?
I am not aware of any cases, no, ma'am. I believe it was just a request to look into it.
And was that a request from your department?
Yes.
At your confirmation hearing, you committed that you would report to Congress within 3 months about what you have done to address the OIG's November 3rd report, which is entitled Major Management and Perform Challenges Facing the Department of Homeland Security. Are you prepared to keep that commitment, which would be March 5th?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Last week, the White House disbanded the controversial Election Integrity Commission. because without finding widespread evidence of voter fraud. Following its disbanding, Chris Kobach claimed he would, and I quote, be working closely with DHS and the White House on this issue. My final question, Mr. Chairman, could you please specify, does Mr. Kobach have an advisory role or any role at DHS on this matter or any other matter?
He does not have an advisory role. He is, as you know, a Secretary of State. We're working with all the Secretaries of State to ensure the integrity of our systems. But no, he does not have any advisory, informal or formal role.
Thank you.
2 members left. Me with my second round. I'll have a couple questions, and then I'm going to go, and Senator Flake is going to finish up, and he's going to use his 10 minutes. Since October 31, and that's the terror attack that we had in the United States, calls for an end to the diversity visa. Those calls have increased. As you know, the controversial program functions as a lottery, allowing aliens from countries with low rates of immigration to the United States a chance to register to submit visa applications. Due to random selection applicants, many have expressed concern with the program's susceptibility to fraud. 2007 GAO report found that consular officers reported widespread use of fake documents to verify applicants' identity. In addition, a state inspector general report found that aliens from countries with ties to terrorism were permitted to apply for this visa. In a recent response to a letter that I sent asking for a candid assessment of this program, the State Department described the document and identity fraud that exists in the application process and the resource-intensive method for uncovering it. Due to the diversity visa lottery's vulnerability to fraud and abuse, its documented use by terrorists, do you think the diversity visa lottery program should be eliminated? Do you think that this visa program has an increased potential for use by terrorists and criminals entering the country and receiving status? And the second question is more important than the first one.
Sir, I believe it, as you say, it's documented. There's a lot of fraud and abuse in this program. And with the 80-plus programs that we have for legal immigration, I believe that we can and should do better for the American people to ensure that those who come here are able to contribute, willing to contribute, and to assimilate into our communities.
Yeah. In regard to sanctuary cities and states, I applaud this administration's efforts to crack down on sanctuary jurisdictions and encourage communities to participate in the 287G program. Unfortunately, since President Trump took office, a number of jurisdictions decided to stop honoring ICE detainer requests. That's dangerous, and I worry about the impact an entire state becoming sanctuary will have on public safety. So considering that, can you describe the Trump administration ongoing efforts to crack down on sanctuary jurisdictions and what steps you're taking to encourage communities to cooperate?
Yes, sir. First of all, as you know, we've asked that Congress make clear that the detainer authority applies and also to provide indemnification from those who want to work with us. This is truly an issue of safety. This is an issue of safety for immigrant communities. It's also an issue of safety for the officers and men and women of DHS. The safest place to take someone into custody is in a controlled environment, which is in the jails after they have committed the crime. The detainer, as you know, allows for a state and local jurisdiction to give us 48 hours notice. It doesn't have to be that they hold 48 hours after. They can give us 48 hours notice, and we will come and pick them up in a controlled environment, which is safer to all of the communities and to my officers.
Yeah, I think I'll submit the rest of my questions in answer in writing. Thank you for being here.